Blademaster, Massilia, Azrail, Macedon. Round of 16. So I've never casted a replay of Massilia before. Looks like Blademaster is going to be on them this game. They've got an interesting roster, but they're kind of meh to me. Like, they have the tools to win games for sure. They can bring in a nice eclectic mix, which is what Blademaster is doing here, of a bunch of different melee units, some Axe Warriors, some Levy Freemen, some Thoreo Spears, some Thorax Swordsmen. But they don't really stand out too much in this game to me. I don't think they're an amazing faction by any means. And Blademaster actually told me before this game that he had the strategy of picking some of the worst factions in the... I wouldn't say this is the worst faction in the game. Some of the less high-tier factions in the game early on, get them out of the way so that he can play the long game and use some of the better factions later in the tournament. We'll see if that pays off for him. I think that's a little risky, because then if you end up losing in these single elimination rounds, then you're simply out of the tournament, and there are plenty of good factions to choose from. But that's what he told me, so we'll see if that ends up biting him in the ass or not. I wouldn't be surprised if it does at some point, but we'll see what happens in this replay. Up in the middle here, it looks like Azrail has some a main line of 4 pikemen, some thorax swords on the flanks, some archers, and some Thessalian cavalry in the back there, which should have absolutely no problem dealing with Massilian cavalry. Now, Massilian cav isn't bad at all. In fact, for their cost, they're actually quite decent, 500 talents, but they have low armor, they're light melee cavalry, they'll get shredded by Thessalians. So, we'll see how this engagement goes. I'm a little scared for Azrail, to be honest. Like, I really hate pikes on this patch. We'll see how he does with them. I've seen some players utilize them very effectively, but they don't respond to attack orders. They don't really do anything but deny space. And denying space in a battle can actually be a really big deal if you have a massive skirmish advantage and want to utilize that to its fullest potential. But I'm not sure that on a map like this, Azrail can actually do that. There's really not a lot of ways to run away from your opponent on this map without getting caught. And with pikes, running away is kind of hard anyway. They move slow. So, I don't know. He only brought some low-tier archers. I think he's going to try to do some skirmishing here, but he didn't invest too much into his skirmishing build. So I think he's going to try to take an engagement relatively early on. It looks like he's moving some of the Thessalian cavalry up the middle here and seeing if he can get some charges off. I like the shield wall from Blademaster here. It's a smart idea. He's actually going to go for another thorax sword that didn't get into shield wall. And he actually went straight up the middle into one of these Thoreo spears. It didn't really get a chance to throw their javelins on the first charge, but he's lost a couple Thessalian cavalry. And actually they are going to throw their jabs now and do quite a decent amount of damage to the Thessalian cavalry, but he'll be able to pull out without... through their own pikes, actually. If there was friendly fire in this game, that would have been interesting. But so he lost some men there, but not sure if that was worth it, but it wasn't a bad move by any means. It kind of halted the Thoreos. Looks like the Blademaster has actually stopped his line here and gotten some volleys off with the Thoreo spears. And as the thorax swords enter melee combat, he's going to get into square formation, which I really like. This is very smart. It's going to allow him to tank this engagement for longer than he normally would have been able to. I just want to, because this battle goes by really quick, I want to just kind of overview everything that's happening on the battle. There are lots of different engagements going on at once. Looks like the thorax swords are engaging the Levy Freeman over here, of course. Won't have any problem winning that engagement. Thorax swords over here with the Axe Warriors. They should win that engagement as well, but it actually looks like there might be some opportunities for flanking for the Massilian cavalry outside. The Thessalian cav is going to charge into the Massilian cav. Or I thought they were, but they're actually not going to. Nice commentating, Indie Pride. Yeah, the Levy Freemen are going to rout right away. And it looks like he's going to look for some hammer and anvils here, but actually lose track of the unit. If he doesn't get this cavalry under control, it's going to be a real problem. And yes, actually, the Massilian cav is going to get into the back of this Thessalian cavalry. That's a problem. I mean, that's an expensive unit. It's not super expensive, but you don't want to waste your cavalry like that. And they need to get their charge bonus. In the center here, looks like some of the Royal Peltas and Thessalians are engaging in the center. And thorax swords should win that fight, no problem. But actually, the javelin throws have done more damage to the thorax swords than I thought they would. And they've actually taken some losses. On the right flank, I think Blademaster's doing a really good job. He's broken through a lot of these units here and should be able to, if he has the time, wrap up this Thoreo spear and then get them around and get a hammer and anvil from the back. Pikes in the center here are starting to engage. Haven't really done anything at the moment. 0 kills for them. And actually, some of these Massilian cavalry got in the rear and they're going to get into the archers. which isn't the biggest deal because, again, I don't think archers were ever going to make a huge impact on this battle. But, I mean, you still don't want to lose that this early. And so he's gonna countercharge with the Massilian, or the Thessalians, and should be able to wrap up that cavalry. But in the center here, the Royal Peltas are engaged with some of the hoplites. And now we're starting to see the bugginess from the pikes. They're engaged in melee combat, trying to help out the Royal Peltas. If the Royal Peltas are actually, I would think this is an engagement they want to take. This is a good engagement. Massilian hoplites, not a fantastic unit, certainly not going to beat Royal Peltas in their 63 attack, but look how long these pikes have been in melee combat for. Maybe 20 seconds now, and they have 2 kills, not facing the way they're supposed to be facing. That's an issue. They're really not doing any killing. If this was a normal sword unit, these hoplites would be getting crushed because they'd be completely surrounded by Royal Peltas and another sword unit. But they're just not responding to combat orders at all, and they have 3 kills, and that's just a waste of a unit right there. Archers are firing in on the flanks. Good use of the archers right there, but unfortunately there's some more cavalry coming in, and good move from Blademaster here, going to be able to take out the rest of these archers, especially because they're low tier, almost no armor, just going to die off the charge basically. And in the center here, Thorax Swords completely surrounded by some other Thorax Swordsmen. These guys are going to have a really hard time getting out of this melee engagement alive. And these guys are down to half strength. So it actually looks like Azrail's kind of winning the left flank from the perspective of Blademaster, but these Thorax Swords are going to be able to tank a little bit longer. And he needs to wrap this up very quickly and get his cavalry into the fight. The Royal Peltas routed so fast. I have no idea how they died that quickly. Were there javelins throwing? No, there were no jabs getting thrown into their rear. I don't know how they died so fast. That was a fight they should have won pretty convincingly, to be honest. Massilian hoplites and, yeah, just 2 units of those. They should have done much better, but they didn't. And the Azrael's general is dead here, and the balance bar is starting to shift in Blademaster's favor. And the pikes have just made no impact whatsoever. And it's not surprising because they're horrible on this patch, but it just sucks. Like, you expect them to do something when you put 2,000 talents into 4 pike units. You expect them to be able to at least deny your enemy charge bonuses and prevent them from doing stuff, but like, looking at them here, they're just standing around, and it's not even Azrael's fault. Like, I'm sure he clicked attack orders. They just don't respond at all, and that's over pretty much. I mean, he has a couple of units left here, but it's just a pike unit which can easily get outflanked in a really beaten up Thorax Sword unit. So, gonna be really hard for Azrael to turn this around at this point. Good charge from the Thessalian cavalry. They've made a pretty big impact, 100 kills, and I think his other cavalry unit got a bunch of kills as well. Good charge in the Thorax Swords, but at this point it's just too little too late. The main line has crumbled for Azrael, and man, those pikes just didn't do anything at all. And that sucks. At least from his perspective. I'm sure Blademaster's happy about it. The Massilian hoplites have done very well. 120 kills against Royal Peltas and Thorax Swords, for that matter. I'm not sure why they performed so well, to be honest. I'd love to hear either Azrael's or Blademaster's perspective on why they performed so well. Because those Royal Peltas were in a fight they should win. They have 62 melee attack, they're sword units. They beat every hoplite in the game except maybe Royal Spartans. So, very interesting that those Royal Peltas died so easily. I'm sure I missed something. But yeah, those pikes are going to not even drop their pikes there, and they're just going to rout, and this battle is over, and Blademaster is going to take the field. So, I mean, I think it's pretty clear. Like, kills-wise, it was actually relatively close. The pikes were a mistake from Azrael. I think the pikes were a mistake from Germinator in that first round matchup, and they were definitely a mistake here. Almost no impact. For 2,000 talents, 2,200 talents, something like that. How many kills did they get? 50? Yeah, like 120 kills between 4 units. It's just bad. And they didn't even really do what they normally are supposed to do, which is deny your opponent charge bonuses and like kind of make your opponent go around the flanks. And if you respond well to that, that can go very well for you because it gives your archers more time to fire. But in this case, the Massilian Cav got around the flank, got into the archers. Archers didn't make a huge impact, which I didn't really expect them to, considering he didn't invest that much into them. But those pikes just didn't do anything, and that is such a problem when you invest that much money into it. I really liked Blademaster's build a lot. He did a great job with microing his cavalry. Some good hammer and anvils, some good usage of taking out the skirmishers off the field. For 2,000 talents here, he got almost 300 kills, so, and disrupted the enemy formation. So he did a very good job with his cavalry. I think Azrail did too. 123 kills, 82 kills, 63 kills. Pretty good use of them, and it was very ballsy to go up the center there to charge into some of the swords and the spear units, but maybe not an amazing trade, but if you expect that your opponent's going to charge up the middle, and you just kind of halt that charge and get some kills and do some HP damage, not a bad thing at all, and he didn't lose too much of his cavalry when he did that, so I think it was a pretty decent move from him, honestly. Thorax swords did great in melee combat. The Rayo spears did pretty well. I think the one reason Azrail lost this game was the pikes. I think if it was another unit, this battle would have gone down to the wire and been very, very close. But just a mistake to bring them. They don't respond to attack orders. They're not maneuverable. They're not flexible. They're really trash on this patch, and I'd be surprised if I keep seeing people bring them because they're just not good. The hoplites from Blademaster performed very well. Axe Warriors did a good job on the flanks, and again, he did a great job with his cavalry there. Blademaster actually has a YouTube channel. It's Wolf Total War. I'll leave that in the description of the video. Go check it out. He's a great commentator and deserves some more subs. So definitely go check him out. And yeah, I think this was a good battle. It's just the pikes, man. Pikes suck. Pikes suck. So just a macro mistake from Azrail to bring him. Can't quite say that enough because I really do think that was the entire difference in that battle. But a good game to both players. Blademaster will advance to the round of 8, and Azrail will now be eliminated. And I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll talk to you all later. Any Pride signing.